Before we get into the show, have some quick editor's notes here. Mark, he says right at the beginning of this that he knows us from Facebook group, and what he means is that he joined the Everyone's Wrong After Hours Facebook group, closed group, that we invite all listeners to come and join. That is also where Brandon was invited to come on to the show as well. If you do just want to come and talk to us or other fans or give us your opinion about the episodes or even come on the show, that is the best place to do it. And there is, of course, a link to it in the description, or you can just find it by going to Facebook and searching for Everyone's Wrong After Hours. Also, we're trying to shorten the length of the show, but brevity is certainly not our strong suit. So we're having a little bit of difficulty with that. This episode, we intended for it to be an hour, but it came closer to 2 hours. So we're releasing it in 2 parts. The first part we're going to release here is about Mythcon and the split that's rising up in the atheist community. And in a few days, we're going to release a segment that we did on the 10 planks of communism. So just stay tuned, and that second one will be coming out very soon. And by the way, let us know what you think about that choice. Should we shorten the show? What we found is we're having more plays than we're having hours listened to. So we feel like the best thing to do is to maybe not put out so much at once, so that people have the time to digest. With that out of the way, I guess let's get on with the show.
You're listening to the Everyone's Wrong podcast. We leave trigger warnings, safe spaces, political correctness behind to explore the extremes of political discourse.
Hey, you fucks, this is Everyone's Wrong. I'm Dave, a.k.a. The Great White North.
I'm Dustin Dark.
And I'm Ed Smith.
And tonight we are joined by...
Mark Siebert.
And where do we know you from, Mark?
Facebook group.
Facebook group and Facebook. The shenanigans that have been happening lately. I've been kind of watching your saga, right? Like I kind of jumped in there right away as soon as I saw the action going down. Kind of like that first post where I saw the numbers plummeting. Do. Because you taking yourself out of the herd. You let them know that you have a separate opinion. And why don't you explain what happened after that?
Well, I'll give a little backstory if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got sucked into the whole atheist community, and by default, that sucked me into the SJW, leftist or regressive left type mindset. But I was always kind of uncomfortable with it. And it got to the point where I just was like, you know what, let me think about this for a minute. And when things started rolling down, I'm like, well, this stuff's getting a little extreme. So that's when I started posting just kind of questions and posting like, I guess they were kind of little trollish comments and trollish posts. And it got to the point where, yeah, people got pissed.
Yeah, I would say the first one that I caught notice of was the privilege one, right? I sent you a private message. I don't know if you remember, but my thoughts on privilege in general, and that, you know, it's class and it's majority, and depending on what fucking patch you're born on. Like if you're born in China, then, you know, the Chinese people that are born in China, most of them are there. They're obviously going to have a majority privilege. So it's not necessarily connected to race. It's more connected to class and majority. But they really went after you just for asking the question too. It wasn't even like you're like,
I think I just asked that time. Yes, at that point, I just asked the question. I just was looking for information because I've I think and this is another thing that I've been trying to do lately is I've been trying to get down to like understanding foundational concepts of why we believe what we believe. And it's kind of rooted out of the Peter Boghossian, take on epistemology. I'm like, let me look at this. Let me figure out what it is I believe. Because growing up religious and growing up in a certain mindset, a lot of those things you don't get. You just kind of accept. And now I'm like kind of being the atheist for about 3 years. I'm coming in this like, hey, let me figure out the foundations. And so with the white privilege, I'm like, okay, what is this to begin with? And then what's the basis for it? And just asking that question from an honest viewpoint got me, a whole bunch of trouble.
Yeah. It's become a sad state of affairs when you can't even ask a simple question. I'm unsure of white privilege. Can you convince me or give me the argument that it exists? And the people that jumped on there and started calling you Nazi and racist, that's why I jumped into that post, because like, if we can't even ask questions, that is authoritarianism in my view. And it's not necessarily governmental authoritarianism, but if it's the people that are supposed to be your group or your friends or the people that you associate with, and they just turn on you and attack just for asking a question, there's serious problems.
Yeah, it runs a religion, because when I got out of Christianity, it was the exact same thing. I had a bunch of fundamentalist friends that I asked questions about religion, and they dropped like flies. But in a way, this was worse. I'll be honest with this was a little worse.
I'll agree with that. Like when, I haven't went into my religious story here, but, I was very, very deep in the church. Like I was leading worship and teaching a Sunday school class, and I walked away with almost no conflict. When I started questioning like the SJW community in like a closed Facebook group, it was fucking vicious. It's witch hunts.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interject there into the story.
Oh, that's cool. No, that's cool, and that adds to it, because like that's definitely. Because when I did it on Facebook, a lot of them dropped on Facebook. I think because they just didn't want to have their viewpoint challenged as religious people, but they were still friendly, and I even reconnected with some of them later. But it seems like the SJW type, they just want to push their agenda on you, and if you don't agree with it, or if you ask questions, then if you don't immediately or relatively quick buy what they're selling, then you're done.
Yeah, and not only are you done, but like you're absolutely the worst. Like if you don't agree with their super lefty regressive ideology, then that automatically makes you white supremacist or racist. And they deny that when you speak to them. They're like they pretend like that side of the movement or that side of the population is not as loud or as big as it is. But man, it's plainly obvious that takes up the majority of that side is those people. Like, I don't know. Like, it's hard to quantify the exact number, but it's a big portion of them. That's for sure.
Well, I find also, Dave, that a lot of them really haven't scrutinized these opinions. It's just, majority rule. And so when you decide to scrutinize the prevailing ideology, they start to buck against the system, and they give you what is known as the purity test. So if you don't have these certain traits, then you're not pure enough to be their type of atheist, so you get kicked out of the group. And that is so pathetic. So I wash my hands of that whole thing. And I'm an atheist. I'm an anti-theist, and that's the way I just live my life the way I want to. And I mean, if you really want to go into things like one of the books I'm reading for like the third time right now is On Liberty by John Stuart Mill, and he talks a lot about how the majority rule is something that we should guard ourselves against.
Well, they would argue on their side that they guard against majority rule by protecting the minorities, right?
But I mean, when you classify people just based on immutable characteristics like skin color or gender or what have you, and then you isolate those people, I mean, you're basically swiping the whole entire group, yet you forget the individual. The individual may vary vastly from every other individual within that context.
It's very true.
One of the other things that I've been kind of contemplating lately too is that, like, there's, like, I remember back in the 80s and 90s, like I've always been heavily into politics. Like, I've always cared about the way that my country's been run and who's running, and I follow elections very closely. And from the left to the right, back in the 80s and 90s, they were, the right was usually called like a one issue voter. And that was a bad thing to be and it was a bad thing to be a one issue voter. It was to be like, a super religious, right-wing religious person saying, I'm not going to vote for that person if they're for abortion. Well, I'm seeing that same behavior from the regressive left to politics. Yes. If a candidate, is anti-abortion or just say, like, morally they don't stand for abortion, it's not like they don't even have to actively try to stop abortion here in Canada. I'm speaking specifically about they go after the person. Like, even though she's a woman, she says, I'm not for abortion, but I'm also not gonna vote against abortion rights, and I'm not gonna try to do anything to impede abortions in Canada. I'm just not morally for it myself, which is perfectly okay. That if that's the way you feel, that's the way you feel. But the left completely went after her, and people are like, I'm not going to vote. I wouldn't vote for her because she's against abortion. Or you hear them saying things like, if you're not a feminist, I'm not going to vote for you. You've turned yourself into a one issue voter.
That's interesting how it's the right and it's the left becoming the right.
Yeah, in certain ways, they're like mirroring themselves, just on different ideological spectrums. But we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with the show. All right, we're back from the break, and in the last segment of this show, we're going to talk about Mythcon. I'm going to fully admit I wasn't there, but I have watched the melee, and I'm going to admit that I didn't watch the stuff that was like normie, like that just went off without a hitch, but I certainly watched the debate between if you can call it that, between Thomas Smith and Sargon of Akkad, and then the aftermath, the implosion of what was left of the atheist movement.
Why don't you tell us what Mythcon was, Dave, for those that the uninitiated? The
uninitiated. So Mythcon is basically a skeptics conference that is held in Milwaukee.
And skeptics is an atheist conference for the truly uninitiated, just so you know.
Yeah, and basically what they hold a position that Jesus Christ was a myth, and this is one of the things that they promote during their conference. So,
take it away, Ed.
So basically, if you haven't watched the Sargon versus Thomas Smith encounter, I will call it, because I can't call it a debate or an interview.
Link in the description.
Yeah, please do so, and then come back and listen to this set part of the show. It'll make more sense to you then. Also, we're going to do, I'm going to read a little bit about from a guy named Eli Bosnick, who's a friend of Thomas Smith, and he really tries to put a spin on this that I didn't get.
And host of 3 podcasts, last I heard. Eli Bosnick. Just to be clear, he hosts Scathing Atheist and Skeptic Rat and God Awful Movies. So
Huge platform, according to himself. He'll tell everybody with an ear that'll fucking listen that he's got a massive platform.
bigger than Bering, bigger than Sargon, bigger than your mom's ass. Like, it's very large platform, yes. Huge. All right, let's move on.
Okay, and I'm going to read a few paragraphs from this because this document is full of crap. But I'm going to make sure that we get to the points that I think that are worth discussing. The first one, it just goes to, he takes a swing at mythicist Milwaukee right off the hop. And he says, the legitimacy of mythicism as an ideology is actually besides the point. I leave that to the historians. The point is that mythicism created a group within atheism that was passionate, unified, and most importantly, had a proclivity for not caring about the truth. The mythicists were, in short, the perfect group to be infected by the anti-social justice vein in the atheist movement.
I'm sorry, did he just make a plea to authority and then said he doesn't care about the truth, and he'll leave that to the authorities, and then said that these people don't care about the truth when he just said he doesn't care about it? Did I follow that sentence?
Yeah.
Fucking roller coaster. Let's move on.
Okay, but I mean, this right now is already setting up or poisoning the well right off the hop, because he's already saying that the mythicists Milwaukee are already infected by some vicious disease called antisocial justice. So he makes that big swing.
The distinction needs to be made that they're not necessarily anti-social justice. Most of these people are actually, like I describe myself, social libertarians. It's anti-social justice warrior that they are. Anti-authoritarianism and anti-regressive left.
And free speech advocates.
Yes. So carry on.
Now, he goes on. I'm going to skip a couple of paragraphs because he goes on a tangent, so I'm just going to stick to what the focus of what we're doing here tonight. And he goes, I did, however, maintain a personal interest in the convention because Thomas Smith of the Serious Inquiries Only podcast had been scheduled to interview Dave Rubin. Now, as I said before, I disagree with Rubin a lot, blah, blah, blah. But sadly, because of family obligations, Rubin pulled out, and the organizers replaced him with a YouTuber named Sargon of Akkad, whose real first name is Carl. Sargon is a different beast entirely than June or Greg, and he's talking about Shoe on Head, and Greg is the Armored Skeptic, two other YouTubers. In the conversations surrounding Mythicist Milwaukee, three have been grouped together, and I think that's a mistake. Okay, and he goes on to talk about Greg. But they are not Sargon. Firstly, because Sargon, unlike Greg and June, is not an atheist or a skeptic YouTuber who shifted to an anti-social justice platform. He's an anti-social justice YouTuber whose atheism has shifted towards. That statement doesn't even make sense, but however...
I'm lost.
Okay, Sargon comes from Gamergate. Okay, and Gamergate was either, according to which side you believe, it is either about men wanting to rape all the women in gaming and being misogynist, or it was about truth and honesty in gaming journalism. We'll let the listeners decide if they want to go 3 years into the past. But that is where it come from. He did come from fighting feminism's encroachment into gaming. So that is that's what he was trying to say, I think, is that he didn't build his platform on atheism like the Scathing Atheist did.
Right.
Okay.
And he goes into exactly what you just talked about. His content was about Gamergate. No, that's fine, because I can skip most of that. But one thing I really want to stress here is that his first videos were about Anita Sarkeesian, and he acquired his following as a sort of YouTube Kaiser who was willing to say things to her and other feminists that other critics weren't, with fans who were especially vicious. most famously, in response to an online anti-bullying campaign, Carl tweeted to the member of parliament behind it, a sexual assault victim herself, "I wouldn't even rape you." Okay, let's just unpack this for a second. Carl, like any YouTuber, has no responsibility for their audience's actions. Sorry, that's a fact of life. If someone listened to our show and decided to be a cunt to somebody, there's nothing we can do about it. We're not telling anybody to do it, and I'm sure Carl hasn't. And I give everybody the same benefit of the doubt. Dustin, you know more about Sargon than I do. Has he ever called for anybody to do anything on his behalf?
I know that these days he always says never contact them because it feeds into their narrative. Now, on this particular, I wish I knew this question was going to be asked. I'm pretty sure that he did this and made a video on it. And of course, he's blocked by her, right? So he writes a tweet that says, "I wouldn't even rape you." And then he tweets it to her, and she'll never see it. But then she got 500 tweets saying pretty much the same thing or some variant of it, non-rape threats. I'm sure there was a couple rape threats in there. Just and you got to realize that guy is probably the funniest person in the whole group, right? Because like everyone's like, I wouldn't even rape you. I wouldn't even rape you. And this guy's like, you know what? I'll do one for the team and I'll give you a go. Like, you know, that's the closest thing you get to a rape threat. Because I went through a lot of the tweets, back when it happened.
And let's just discuss this tweet. "I wouldn't even rape you." Now, personally, I would never have sent it to her. I don't think it would accomplish much, except allow her mouth to go on thing. But it's not me. I'm not Sargon. I didn't send a tweet. So fuck off, people. Don't tell me that I'm in the same bag as him, because I wouldn't. But I don't see what the big deal about this fucking tweet is. "I wouldn't even rape you" means I wouldn't rape you.
Well, can I get some context as to what was going on?
Okay. Well, basically the context was there was a female MP, which is a member of parliament, and she had a campaign to control the internet because she said that there was a lot of online sexual assault, a sexual assault crime, or sexual harassment, I should say, not assault, sexual harassment, and there was a lot of online bullying that she wanted to curtail, but the only way to do that is to take power of the internet.
So this lady herself, she is a victim of sexual assault, right? She was groped in a bar, is what she says, unwantedly by a man, and that's terrible, first of all. Second, she claims that she gets a lot of rape threats before this online, right? So she is leveraging her experience as a sexual assault victim in order to move legislation to be able to censor the internet further in the UK. So that's the background to this. Also, this woman had there was one gentleman that was trying to introduce an International Men's Day into the United Kingdom. They already have an International Women's Day, where they would talk about men's issues, like men being, 70% of suicides, the vast majority of work deaths, not getting custody of their kids, that type of thing, real men's problems. And she mocked them, or him.
She openly laughed.
Openly laughed. And she also, said that the whole "I wouldn't even rape you" thing didn't bother her. Okay. So that's the background of it, by the way. I might step on a point that Dave was planning on making here, but like, I've seen several times, like Thomas Smith and Eli Bosnick, which Thomas Smith is the guy that Sargon, was supposed to be interviewing Sargon, but it turned into a debate. They talk about like, well, this wouldn't be appropriate in an office setting. Like, no, you can't hit on people in an office setting. In no way do I want office relations to become public relations, for one. And for two, this is not even a conversation between one citizen and another citizen. This is a conversation between a politician and a voting person within their democracy. Okay? She is trying to move legislation. He is proving a point. Okay? This woman cries about rape threats online. I bet I can not even make a rape threat, and everyone calls it a rape threat.
Just what
and then he did
just talking like this right now, Dustin, you are going to be accused of being part of the rape culture.
Right. I'm practicing apologetics now. Like, yes. and no, but he is making a legitimate protest, and it all makes sense if you step back and look at what he's doing. And then it worked. And then everyone is proving his point right this moment. Sorry. Am I wrong, guys? Did I mess this up?
No, I think it's absolutely correct. I think you're absolutely correct.
No, yeah.
Fuck. Back to Bosnick.
Eli further goes on and says, the incident wasn't a one-off.
Hey, one second. It's also important to say that these same people that are going after Sargon for making that tweet are the same people that were telling, what's her name? The D-list celebrity. What's her name, Dustin? Kathy Griffin, not to apologize for showing a severed, bloody Trump's head when he has a 10-year-old at home, right?
I hate those arguments unless we're talking about a specific individual. You know what I mean? Like, I try not to say, like, oh, the left says this, but then they say this as well. Like, I mean, like, I hear what you're saying, but unless Eli or Thomas said, Kathy Griffin shouldn't have apologized, then I don't see the big connection. Sorry.
But did they make a big freak out about it like they did about this?
I have no idea, man. I dipped out on them a year ago.
No, they didn't. They didn't.
I stopped listening to Scathing Atheists when Noah Illusion said, fuck democracy when Trump won. I checked out.
I really want you to pay attention to this next statement, Dustin and Dave, and I want you to, and Mark, sorry, just to tell me exactly if this is very true or this has any validity. He has publicly praised and has been praised by Richard Spencer, calling him / our guy, which is 4chan speak for a fellow white supremacist or at least an ally.
No idea.
Richard Spencer has said that Sargon is doing them a great favor. He has also said that the regressive left, people like Eli Bosnick and Thomas Smith, are also doing them great favors and pushing people into their camp. So if that's a slam on Sargon, it's also a slam on their movement. Furthermore, the alt-right motherfucking hates Sargon.
Okay, I just want to say this, though. Has he publicly praised Richard Spencer?
No, he has not publicly praised Richard Spencer. I can tell you almost exactly, and I think Mark listens to Sargon as well. He would say, as an anti-identitarian, he has to stand on his principles against almost anything that Richard Spencer would have to say.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So no, I don't believe that that's true at all. I would have to see it on tape.
And Mark, I also,
let Mark chime in.
Yeah, I would agree with that. His what I've seen on his videos, he's completely against identity politics of both stripes. So to try to throw him in with Richard Spencer is disingenuous. They're just trying to lump him in. So they're trying to spread him and lump him in and make him look like as bad as possible, really.
He calls them storm fags.
So basically, this is a straw man that he's putting up to and poisoning the well at the same time.
Yes.
Okay, great. He's the inventor of Kekistan, a satirical country that internet trolls claim make fun of identity politics, but that it is really a barely concealed dog white whistle to white supremacists. Okay.
Oh.
Okay, hold on a second. I want to talk about Kekistan. The word Kek, K-E-K, means LOL in World of Warcraft. Sorry, it just does. Fucking look it up.
It does.
And I don't even play fucking World of Warcraft. And, like, they are openly mocking the whole idea of you people talking about identity politics. They made a flag. They are sincerely, this is a satire, people. Get over it.
It is. It's completely Poe. What it is and Sargon didn't start it, but he really spearheaded the movement, seriously. It is a complete mocking of identity politics to a T, mocking the alt-right the hardest. They took a Nazi flag, they put fucking Pepe on it, they dye it green, they fucking, free the Kekistani people, we've been oppressed and we need our equal rights and we're being genocided, and like, they're just mocking them and they fucking hate it. They have stolen Pepe from the alt-right. If anyone's been paying attention, they've stolen it. It's brilliant. In my opinion.
I want to go to this second part. What does dog whistle mean? Are they saying he's silently signaling white supremacists? Is that what he means?
Yes. Like he's calling them to him.
So the left would say that when a Republican walks up and says we need to be tougher on crime, that means we need to lock up black people. When they say we need to cut taxes, that means we need to give more money to rich white people. When they say we need to tighten the border, that means we hate Mexicans. And there have been politicians that like caught saying that they do that. It's a legitimate phenomenon. Is Sargon doing that? No. I can find you a Sargon tweet where he said, "Sorry guys, I don't care about that white genocide at all." I mean, he's fucking mixed. He's a quarter black. It's hard to care about white genocide when you're fucking not white, or you're already mixed yourself. Let's say.
Okay, and I'm just trying to batter the claims of this article, because the next one is another one. However, despite a reasonably large platform of 700,000 subscribers, at least some of which are probably real. What a fucking stupid crap! He is fairly unknown in mainstream atheism. I don't believe that for a second. I think he's more known than fucking Eli Bosnick is. But anyway, I think he's absolutely mistaken there. They aren't a part of the atheist movement, because now he's talking about June and Greg again, because as their channels, social medias, and own words attest, they are anti-social justice advocates who happen to be atheists.
That's backwards when it comes to Armored Skeptic specifically. He was actually an atheist that was put out by Atheism Plus, but he didn't get into anti-social justice stuff until he had been doing his channel for a while. He cut his teeth on religion. And by the way, shoe on head for those uninitiated in the dark corners of internet culture, the name is a hint that it's largely satirical. You see, like in forum type of channels, when someone's calling someone kind of retarded, they say pants on head. Mm-hmm. Like you're so dumb you put your pants on your head instead of your shirt. She takes it a step further. Shoe on head. And people don't like, they're trying to take her seriously. No, she's mocking people. Yes, she's mocking people. It's entertainment, and that is what her show is.
So basically what you're saying is SJWs don't have a sense of humor. Okay.
No, yes. They talk about how, I'm peeking out on my mic. They talk about how important satire is, and how important mocking is against religion and against the right, but they never realize when people are doing it to them. Like how they completely miss Kekistan. They completely miss it.
No, I think it's a narrative that they don't want to get. They rather.
That's fair.
But doesn't it destroy or like at least put a big question mark on their narrative?
Of course, because if they're mistaken about this, what else are they mistaken about?
Yeah, that's why they have to kind of do what they do.
Okay. So he basically makes a claim that the only reason why they were like Shoe and Head and all them were and Sargon were invited in the first place was because they sell tickets and they'll get butts in the seat. Conference, that's exactly what you want. Sorry, that's a fact of business.
He on that point, and several times in this article, he calls their side the mainstream atheist side, and he's calling these guys the not atheist side. Yet they are the ones with the draw. Did I get that right?
Mm.
Okay, so go on. Yeah, so that makes them the mainstream ones. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. He says, I'd like to think, given the behavior of the organizers since, that I would have been on the right side of this if I had been aware of their true intentions, that I would have listened. But if I'm honest, I don't know if that's true. He's trying to make a case that people were warning them, him and Thomas, about this great wave of nastiness coming their way, that these people should never have been able to be platformed. And there was a great campaign, as you know, by Steve Shives and Christy Winters. These are names I'm throwing out, but Steve Shives, people should know who he is, unless you're blocked and then you have no fucking idea who he is, which is probably 90% of you. These people actively launched a campaign to get Sargon deplatformed from Mrs. Milwaukee. They actively instigated a harassment campaign against Mrs. Milwaukee, and in fact, Mrs. Milwaukee had to pay an extra $16,000 for security because of the fuss that was happening prior to the actual event. I mean, this is craziness. When even in the most vile of opinions, if they were invited there, who are they to say that they couldn't? And I mean, that's where Thomas was supposed to be there to balance that and question and attack. This was supposed to be an interview where you come to, you air out the ideas and you attack them. It turned into a shit show from the beginning because the tweet, people cheered at Sargon, cheered for Sargon. Okay, people, we really have to stress this too. People literally fucking cheered for this tweet during this interview. And people take it as every one of those people want women to receive rape threats. That's not why people cheered. Dustin, why do you think they cheered?
I think they cheer, for one, right out the gate, Thomas is trying to bully Sargon into an apology instead of interviewing him, just like they did to me. But Sargon is far more experienced than I was the second time I ever got on a podcast, and he didn't take their shit. He stood up for free speech. He stood up for the protest that he had led, and he didn't back down. And that's why they applauded, because people like Thomas and Eli are cry bullies. They bully you in the name of other people's fucking tears.
Okay, and
defiance. They cheered because of Sargon's defiance in the face of an accusation, an untrue accusation. That's why they cheered, because it's basically, as the great Rage Against the Machine said it, "Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me." That's why they cheered.
I think that's very true. I think you probably got it better than I did there, Dave.
Okay, and going back to the article, he makes us this thing about that he's in another city, so he didn't make the conference. He didn't even fucking go to this conference, okay? He gets Facebook 10-second clips here and there, and then he goes, and then I'm texted a link to Facebook to a Facebook post of a 10-second video clip. I watched Thomas bring up the quote to Carl, "I wouldn't even rape you." And the crowd, ... cheers. At an atheist conference. On the bill was a debate about the future of Islam, moderated by Matt Dillahunty, and the screening of a movie about the historicity of Jesus. There is a cheering ovation for mocking a sexual assault victim. I froze when watching the clip. Literally froze. Oh God. What if a rape victim is in the audience? How must that have felt? How could they let this happen? How could we let this happen? And so the drama builds.
Is he typing this from his fainting couch?
I think so.
And his safe space with his fucking bubbles and his kittens. Ed's laughing.
By the way, Sargon's supposed to be making a great video coming out soon about all the male feminists turned rapists. But go on, Ed. Maybe that'll make the show. Maybe it won't.
Okay. And sure enough, that night, there it was. All my fears realized. A little YouTube channel. She likes my shows. I call her CC. On Twitter, shared by a friend, I watched this and broke down in tears. As a rape victim, I will never forget this. It's devastating. I will never forget it either.
I'm sorry, we can't laugh at a rape victim. Sorry.
I'm not laughing at the rape victim. I'm saying fuck you to Eli for using the fucking rape victim as a way to try to call out Sargon. Fuck you for using that.
Right. This is what I'm saying. They stand on other people's fucking.
Yeah, you're trying to use an emotional argument. You're calling yourself a skeptic. Yeah, sorry. Fuck you. Okay, go ahead, Ed.
Okay, we don't know who this person is. We don't even know this person exists.
No, I'm saying fuck you to Eli, not to the rape victim. Let me see.
Yeah,
go ahead, Mark. Yeah,
please, sir.
Yeah, like what I'm seeing here is I see really poor framing. The whole thing is just really poor. Like they're like you're saying, like they have a bottle of tears, kind of. But I think it's even more than that. It's they're appealing to the emotions to such a level that they don't even understand the narrative. They don't understand even where it even came from, and they're automatically just judging from the beginning. And then they try to make this thing where, like, kind of like what they do when they bring up Hitler. Well, you bring up rape victims. So now you can't argue, and if you argue against her, you make your point. Now you're automatically going to be a rape apologist, which is what happened to me. You know, I asked a couple questions, and I said, hey, let's look at what happened. Let's look at the history. Oh, you're a rape apologist.
Well, I just want to show the level of hypocrisy we're actually dealing with. Quote, that even the dick joke puppy rape movie guy was there for them. Wait a second. Hold up a second. Did he just say rape joke? So it's okay for him to make a rape joke, but not Sargon, because he's from a different branch of the political sphere. Gotcha. So that's the level of hypocrisy we're dealing with so far. And this was the major disappointment of the whole Mythicist Milwaukee incident for me. Not the invitation of assholes as speakers. Cons accidentally invite idiots all the time. Bigotry and anti-intellectualism is having its day with President Trump, and shit Lord Khan was inevitable. That is not what bothered me. What bothered me is what I saw from the uninformed when they personally became educated enough to see that these speakers didn't deserve a platform. On the thread in particular, I saw...
What makes him the authority on who deserves his platform or not?
I have no idea. The moral high ground he's trying to take here is not even his own. He's got his moral outrage for someone else down the line that he has no idea if this is even true. You know, I mean, this is pissing me off to no end.
No, I'm sorry, I wasn't very articulate. Fuck you. But it's like, Jesus Christ, man, don't use somebody's victimhood like that. Like,
everyone has come out against Mythicist Milwaukee, who even begins to matter. So only people that begin to matter. There is no member of organized atheism who will touch them with a 10-foot pole. Hell, they pissed off Andy Wilson. Who the fuck Andy Wilson is? From Merseyside Skeptics and the organizer of QED.
Okay.
The nicest human being on the planet.
Oh,
so an SJW. Yeah, okay.
yeah, okay.
Moving on. Color me not surprised. Whoa. They even pissed off Joe the fucking plumber. Like, what the fuck?
Okay, and here is the creme de la creme of this entire thing. But this will happen again if we, as a secular community, cannot learn to listen. We need to release the worship of our own skepticism and understand that I don't know about all that does not mean that nobody knows.
Huh? What? That doesn't even make any fucking goddamn sense.
Saying there was people that followed Sargon that was informing them and they all ignored it. Don't you know? They were building a case.
No, like this, that sentence really fucking got to me. And this explains why there is a split in the atheism movement. And we're thinking about doing a bigger dive into this, you know. The people that have been following us from the beginning know that we used to have an atheist podcast. And the only reason we're talking about this one, particularly in this time, because there's a no platform campaign, that failed. So in my opinion, what basically happened is Thomas showed up to destroy it in person. You know, like, I mean, you don't show up and yell at crowds and call them named if you're trying to put on a fucking quality event. But anyway, to abandon skepticism, no. Okay. First of all, all right. One of the first things that made me pop my head up against, Christianity is lean not against your own understanding. You know, blessed is he that believes but has not seen. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna paraphrase, Christopher Hitchens here. Anyone that, requests of you to just relinquish your faculties over to them so that they can impose a, utopia for you. Run. Like, what's the word, Ed? Like, and I know you recognize that quote because you're a Hitchens guy like I am. But that's
well, basically what he's basically saying, the sleep of reason bring forth monsters. The sleep of reason bring forth monsters because if you do not, I mean, I question what you guys say, for fuck's sakes. And
yes,
hopefully you question what I say. And
I don't even listen to what you say. What are you talking about?
Exactly. So, I mean, this is what the whole thing is always think for yourself. Mm. Always think for yourself. And don't let other people do that for you.
So I think that they're starting a bit of a religion out of atheism, which is just fucking crazy. Which, you know, and that's one of the tenets of a cult is to you know, don't lean on what you think and you believe. Relinquish that over to the group. Okay. And I absolutely will not do that. Period. And this is what is causing a schism in the atheist community. Of course, if you're saying abandon skepticism, the skeptic community isn't gonna abandon skepticism.
Of course.
It's not gonna happen.
But this gets even juicier with the next couple of sentences.
Oh, God damn it. I can't take it, Ed. I can't take it.
Does not mean that you get to be neutral to people's requests for help until you've made up your own personal decision. Did you not hear what I just said? This does not mean that you get to be neutral to people's request for help until you've made up your own personal decision. You have to relinquish your own brain. You're going to be basically a robot. This is tyranny.
I got it, Ed. I got it, Ed. I was trying to fucking. I heard you the first time and I understood it. It's just I'm kind of at a little bit of a loss for.
I'm trying to pry the hands, the palms from my face.
I'm processing it. Listen.
This is why I say that the SJW is the greatest thing to happen to religion in the last 100 years.
Yeah.
It kept the real skeptics busy from debating the theocrats. And that's why the goddamn theocrats are winning, is because we're too busy with fucking bullshit nonsense like this. Jesus Christ.
Well, if you had your panties in a bunch, here's a great sentence for you, Dustin. This is coming for. Okay. I hope we all learn that when the vulnerable members of our community tell us that someone is a predator or a racist or a misogynist who will make this community unsafe for them and others, our answer can't be skepticism.
Oh my God.
What?
We're just supposed to take their word for it, man.
Yeah, listen and believe. What did I say? Lean not on your own understanding. Blessed is he that believes that has not seen. Take up your cross and follow Eli Bosnick. Like this, it's like
okay.
how does this even work out? Like realistically. So like, and okay, first of all, what is a vulnerable person? Like, I'm pretty sure we're all just kind of like a thin layer of skin holding in guts. And if you poke us real hard, we die. So I'm pretty sure we're all fucking cocksucking vulnerable. I don't even know what, like that. That's ridiculous.
Okay, hold up. You're not getting the best of this yet.
Oh, this is shit.
I'll make it stop, Ed.
And look, of course you're not obligated to memorize every YouTube asshole or Twitter moron. But if we want to be a welcoming community, if we want to be a humanist movement, you are, in capital, let all capital, you are obligated to listen to the people who do.
No. That's it. Atheism is this. It's this. You don't believe in God. And if there's anything that ties atheism together, it's a belief in separation of church and state. That's fucking it, man. That's it. You don't get to add all your fucking bullshit to it, fucking Eli Bosnick.
So in order to be inclusive, we must purge.
You must pass the purity test. Okay, and that's where I failed. That's where I failed you. Where I failed myself. And where I failed CC. And so, CC, I am sorry. I should have done what I could. I should have smiled big and asked nice and stopped this thing in its tracks. I should have listened when you asked for help. And you deserved better. If you enjoyed this blog and would like there to be more of them, please pledge on Patreon. That's the next sentence directly after it. Sorry, I just had to throw it in.
But
so it
hang
sounds
on.
like this is a great thing to make money.
Yes, of course he is. Did he really just say that he could stop this conference? Does his bloated ego really think that he has more subscribers than Sargon? Does he really think that he could, like, I'm fucking Eli Bosnick, doop-de-fucking do, I should have stopped fucking, are you fucking kidding? Give me a fucking break.
So let's get this right. Okay, so, they didn't like the speaker that replaced Dave Rubin, so they tried to deplatform him, failed to deplatform him, so they show up, refuse to actually interview the guy, yell at him about some tweets, yell at the crowd, calling them deplorable and, should be ashamed and shit, storms off, okay? We haven't brought them up, but I'm gonna include a link to Tom and Cecil from Cognitive Dissonance podcast, fucking, going up to Sargon drunk as shit afterwards,
trying to be
acting like they want to get their ass whooped, and they got escorted off the premises, even though Sargon asked them not to be, escorted off the premises because the people running the thing were afraid they were going to get violent. Okay?
Yep.
And then, when none of that works and they fail to shut down, they say that they're going to shut down the whole goddamn thing. You guys let Sargon on. We don't like Sargon, so we're going to burn it down.
Okay. You want to know what kind of...
Guess what? I don't like Sargon either. I'm not a fan of him either. I think he's boring as shit. But you don't see me doing all fucking... Jesus Christ.
Listen. This is the kind of ego you're dealing with, okay? Listen. I have to fucking suck it up here, because this is... Fuck. I probably could have offered Mrs. Milwaukee a goddamn live show. So basically what he's saying is they should have kicked out Sargon and he would have done a live show. It would have been better. Because either they lack my power or my charm, is exactly what he says.
My power, my fucking Christ. Okay.
And that's where I'm going to leave this, because I'm going to punch this screen.
Here's my thought, my thought on that. Eli, you're not that fucking funny. Like, I don't claim to be a comedian either, but Jesus Christ, man. Like most people that I know stopped listening to Scathing Atheist and all those other programs when you joined. Like, they didn't really fucking like it anymore. So.
I never listened to Scathing Atheist, sorry.
Yeah, take it easy. Like, Jesus Christ, that's an ego. Holy shit.
He does have incredible hubris.
That's an
ego. Incredible hubris. Yeah. This is the caliber of person that is saying we should surrender our facilities over to people like him, and apparently every perceived disadvantaged person should be in control of your actions as well.
And all you need to receive this idiotic bliss is to give up your faculties of reason.
Yes, of course. Hey, here, as the host of the show, I'm going to make an extension for Thomas Smith and Eli Bosnick to come on here and defend themselves.
Bring it, bitches.
To come on here and defend your and your use of victims of sexual abuse. Shame on you for that.
Okay, I'd like to get Mark's opinion on this because we didn't hear from him much, and I apologize, Mark.
Yeah, there's a lot actually. Because first of all, I'd like to say want to make one comment with Eli Bosnick making that statement about wanting to do his little live show, which I did see live, and I mean there's some funny parts, but he does not shy away from the baby rape jokes. So you're gonna have he's gonna be upset rape? With. Yeah, baby rape. Well, babies, any sexual proclivities to a baby is basically rape. So, like, let's not bullet
fair.
Yeah, he was like, at the one show I went to, he was like petting like a baby, like, he was doing some kind of pantomime with a baby. And it was definitely inappropriate. It was supposed to be funny, but it's just this hypocrisy. You know, it's like, really, you're going to take that and replace it with dialogue? I mean, that's what it was supposed to be. It's supposed to be dialogue. And that's the problem with what Eli Bosnick wants to do is he wants to remove the dialogue. He wants to say, okay, if you want to, instead of making a case for why you believe what you believe or making a case for your perspective, you automatically got to, and then I think that roots right into the identity politics that we've come to be so familiar with. It's, if you're part of this identity, you're automatically given, you're a victim, so we have to hear the victim. And that's what he's saying. He's like, okay, you have to listen to the victims, and then you have to help. You remove skepticism. You don't looking at what they're trying to say. You just say, okay, which, I mean, that sounds good on the surface, because if any person who comes to you asks for help, you should help. But then again, somebody comes to my door at 2:00 in the morning, and they want help, I'm going to be skeptical. So I don't see, we can't just remove skepticism.
No.
And,
No.
it's dangerous, because once you remove skepticism, then you bind into the cultural Marxism, the neo-Marxism, where now it's, the identity politics, and now you're going to have a new, you start having just kind of, a new like revolution where it's just people are just, taking over or whatever. But, that's part of it. I mean, there's a lot more I could say. Just kind of like what happened on social media. It's just, I question a little bit, say a few things, and then it's just a shitstorm on my Facebook page.
But they like you said, they've broken down the best means of communication that we've had is questioning authority.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't ask a simple question without being lambasted and tainted and smeared, then there's something drastically wrong with the avenues of discourse, and there's something seriously wrong in our society.
Yeah, I think it was Justin Schieber, and I think he had a podcast or something too. And I actually find it quite interesting. But he comes on my page, and I'm just talking about, the tweet, the rape tweet or whatever, and he just wants to automatically say, "Oh, you should be raped with a tire iron, or you should go fuck yourself with a tire iron." I'm like, that's not very. You're telling me I should be raped with a tire iron? That's like a rape threat,
Yeah, So know, right? here, I'm gonna level with you guys right now. So Mark, you don't know this. Dustin and Ed know this. That my sister was raped and murdered. Do you know what she was killed with, Dustin?
A tire iron for 500.
A tire iron. She was murdered with a tire iron.
So, and if you notice, I just made a joke about the instrument as well.
Yes. Did I freak out? Did I make a big scene? But if I was one of those types of people, when he started talking about people being fucked and raped by tire irons, I would have shamed him into oblivion. Imagine what I could have done to that person if I really wanted to, in the eyes of the fucking holier than thou social justice warriors.
Oh, but you can't touch him because he's on the right side. He's on the he's telling he's anti-SJW to go get fucked with a tire iron, so he's okay.
Yes,
he's covered.
Yeah, but when you're talking about the scales of the victimhood pyramid or Olympics that they talk about all the time, I mean, Dave, no offense, buddy, you should be on the top of that fucking mountain.
I was also a victimizer too, though, right? So I don't really see myself in that. I guess I should be, but
no. I'm not saying that you feel that you are or you should be. I'm saying under their definitions, you're at the peak.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, but I'm not a pussy. So I shouldn't say it like that. No, I don't share that view of the world, right? Like I don't think that actually I know it's not that I don't feel, I know that feeling sorry for yourself and getting yourself into that place of victimhood and kind of being stagnant there, it's not conducive to, like, I got kids, right? They depend on me. I have to provide and be strong for them.
Yeah, you have to live your life too, eh?
Live your life, yeah. And you can't like if you're, so Mark doesn't know this about me, but like, so if I every time I seen an abuse thing on TV that the parents were abusing the kids, or anytime I saw like extreme poverty or prostitution or murder or gang violence or drug dealing, and I got all fucking worked up and in a tizzy over it, I would never be able to watch fucking TV again.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I saw somebody on TV being jumped by 6 people and kicked in the face, that would trigger me every time so you have to learn that is not you in that situation. The past is the past. You need to move forward.
In my experience, and I've had my share of trauma myself. When I was more involved in these, regressive type of safe space, people, those things start to bother you. They really do. Like, I had a rough relationship with my adopted parents, let's say, and didn't know my real parents. That's a lot of triggers for,
and so their ideology leaked in and it started to bother you?
And yeah, it does. It gets to the point to where, like, you see these things and it sends you back. And instead of thinking about how it doesn't matter and you've overcome and you've become better, you think about how terrible it was and how traumatic it was. You see,
wow, that's crazy.
You work in the wrong direction psychologically.
Yeah,
right?
That's crazy.
So I had to work myself back out of it. And you're just living in the past, and you go back and you relive that event, and you don't think about, once again, how you've survived. You don't think about yourself as a survivor. You think of yourself as a victim. That's why it is very fair to call it a victim culture. It creates victims when there would be, in my opinion, fighters and survivors, and it creates weak people, and that's why they're going to lose.
Wow,
that's why you can watch, like, the debate and, like, Thomas almost cries, man. Thomas almost cries on the stage. And two, like, I was listening, like, Bearing, another YouTuber. If the listeners haven't noticed, we spend a lot, between the three of us, we spend a lot of time consuming internet media. But Bearing, a very large YouTuber, interviewed Thomas, and apparently an interview is about to come out, on Thomas's podcast, Serious Inquiries Only, where Thomas and Eli sat down with the people from Milwaukee, Milwaukee, Mythcon, the thing we're talking about. And in which case Eli also breaks down and cries. And, Thomas loses his shit and screams at him and calls them fucking shitty people and all this. Bearing had like a 20-second clip of it.
Probably gonna be hilarious, actually.
Oh, dude, I cannot motherfucking wait for this. First of all, guys, check, like, maybe you're not all into this drama, and that's fine, but for anyone that is, like, I know Mark is a little bit here, I'm going to fill up the description, the show notes. I'm going to fill it up with links to, Sargon's been making videos ripping Thomas asshole, a YouTube page called The Quartering. Bearing had the interview. It's not going well. It's not going well for these guys. They're getting their coming ups.
But one of the things I want to stress too, Dustin, as all three of us know about each other, we've had trauma throughout our lives. It's true. None of us have had an easy childhood. But one of the things that we all have in common is that we've looked that in the face and chosen a better life for ourselves.
I would say, to go a little further, I think that we have all used it as a source of strength rather than a source of weakness.
Yeah, I mean, we've moved past it, and you'll never forget it, okay? But it doesn't control our lives, and to be sucked in a vortex of misery and victimhood 24/7 steals. It's basically an internal form of communism. Let's tie it back to the last section. You're being sucked into this vortex where everybody is equally miserable and nothing is getting done. Innovation is stopped and you don't even want to get out of bed anymore. Like, let's treat people, which psychologists are saying, to be triggered is good for healing. And I think that let's speak to them.
Don't avoid the situation. Like, I could totally nuke that and be like, yeah, my sister was murdered by a fucking tire and then her body was eaten by wolves because I lived in northern Canada. Like,
Game of Thrones must be hard for you.
It's not at all. I love this show.
Anyway,
because I move fucking past it. Just move fucking past shit, man. That's it. Like, it's like, whatever. I don't know. Maybe
if you can, and if you can't, seek help, and don't expect society to remake itself for you. Yeah. How are you guys feeling with this? Are we wrapping it up here?
Yeah, let's do that. Because
Wrap it up. Oh yeah, this is totally. I think Sunday we're gonna release Mythcon here, and then maybe Wednesday we'll release the fucking 10 planks. You've been listening to the Everyone's Wrong podcast. You can find us on our homepage at Spreaker.com/everyone's-wrong. You can also find us on iTunes and YouTube by searching for Everyone's Wrong podcast. Or you can listen to us on your podcast app of choice by importing our RSS feed. You can follow us on Facebook.com/everyone'swrong or join our closed Facebook group by searching Facebook for Everyone's Wrong After Hours. You can tweet us at wrong_pod or email us at everyone'swrongpodcast@gmail.com.